Okay, in this video, we'll be designing this very simple sword for the Dummy 13 model. This handle that we have right here is 18 millimeters in length, and the shape of it is very similar to what we saw in the wrench example. In fact, it's identical. So let's get started. We'll go over to Autodesk Inventor. You can see that I have sword designed here. Let's start with the handle. So as always, we want to start a new part, File New. And we want to go into English, US metric, and select millimeters for this part. And then begin making a two-dimensional sketch on the XY plane. So click here, and here's the XY plane. And let's do the same thing we did before with the wrench. And so that was, if you remember, a 4 millimeter circle and then a 3 by 6 rectangle to make the shape of a handle so that it slides right into the hand of the Dummy 13 model. So let's see if I can remember those dimensions. We're going to start with a circle. You can pull it out like this and then just type in. If you forget though, what you can do is just make this an arbitrary size. Doesn't really matter. Then use your dimension tool to click on the outside and type in 4. You can use your scroll wheel to zoom in, and then we're going to hold down the scroll wheel to pan. This is where we're going to grab the 2-point center rectangle. So we're going to put a center here, but then make it an arbitrary size like that. Next, we want to make this 3, 3, enter, and then click and drag up, 6, enter. Now we wanted to extrude this by a distance of 18 millimeters for the handle. We'll go ahead and put this chamfer on the end of this, but we'll ignore the details in there unless you want to add them. Then we'll add this part of the sword next. So we need to extrude this in the 3D model tab by 18 millimeters, and we only want, using my scroll wheel here, this middle part that looks like this. We want to change that to 18, and you can scroll back and make sure it looks right, then click OK. Remember in the last video that we used a chamfer to make this edge not so sharp. So we clicked here and said, well, we don't need it that extreme. Let's just use a half of a millimeter. And then we clicked all 4 of these areas or sides of this. And now we have a handle that will more carefully or easily go into the hand of the um, Dummy 13 model. The next thing we want to do is start drawing on this surface on the end. In order to do that, you could use this view cube to move around, but I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to push on my middle mouse wheel to orbit around like that so that I can right click on this and make a new sketch. Now what I'm trying to do is make this flat part of the sword right here, that part right here. And it looks like it's going to be 18 inches. So let's go ahead and now that we're sketching on this surface, I can click back like this. Let's start with, what do you think here? Maybe a center rectangle, making it arbitrary in size, first of all. You can put in your own design, of course, but I'm going to follow the instructions as they were listed there. All I did really was pull in the STL file from a previous design and then measured it so that I can make this video. This one right here, you might remember, is going to be 3. So if you turn it to the side by holding down Shift key and scroll wheel, pressing down on it, you can see that the next step we want to do is extrude this. 3D model tab, extrude. It doesn't need to be that long, just 2 millimeters. And there you go. Now, what we could do next is maybe look at the model that we have over here. This is the model that was pulled in, and try to guess what these things are right here on the, well, these things are called chamfers. I'm going to guess at what the chamfers are. So we want to make sure those are in our model. So let's go up here to chamfer. Select that. You can see it's not quite sharp enough. So let's make it maybe 0.75. I guess by sharp, I meant deep enough on the 45-degree cut. So that looks good. And then we can orbit to the other side, or just, you could apply them and make a new one, but I like using my scroll wheel a lot to click on these sides and orbit it around until it looks like that. So that's a good start, is the handle. And now we're going to put the blade up here. So let's begin by having another sketch right here. So right click, new sketch. And now we're going to make the blade shape. Now, if I remember right, it was probably 6 millimeters from side to side there. I'm going to guess on that part. So let's see if that's right. Again, I think a center rectangle will do. Clicking here, going out like that. And let's see if 6 is going to be good for the width of that sword. Now, of course, this one we want to make it sure that it's either equal to or less than the thickness of the whole sword. I want to make it equal to, just for easy 3D printing. The next thing we want to do is then extrude this. And the rough dimensions that I was able to get, let's just make it an even 58 on the length of that sword. So going back over here, extrude. We only want this shape right here. And we're going to go 58 all the way out there, and then click OK. So it's looking more and more like a sword, but more just like a blank for right now, right? So let's see what else we can do here. We probably want to make the end curve somehow. What we could try to do is maybe put a chamfer on there first to see what it looks like. So if we put a chamfer, I wonder if you did it like 3 inches or 3 millimeters. Would that be too much? So it kind of puts a sharp point on it. That's getting started with it. I guess we can click OK on that point. But what you'll notice is on this, it has a curve to it. I think you might even be able to see that in the PowerPoint slide here. A little bit of a curve to it. So we're going to put what's called a fillet to smooth that out a little bit. So we put a sharp chamfer on there. Here's my part that I'm working on. But now I'm going to put a fillet to smooth it out. So I don't really know what values to use. I'm just going to click here and then click here as well. And I'm just going to put a 4 in there, just guessing what it might be. I guess it looks pretty good, actually. The final step here is to make the blade. Then Ever's going to make the blade using a chamfer again. And I wonder if that's going to be too much there. Yeah, it gave me an error right there. So I wonder if 3 is going to be too much. Let's try 1.5. Oh, that actually worked because that is half of the thickness. So there's one side of the blade, and then here's the other side of the blade. All right, are we done with the sword? It looks like it. Okay, you can add some more details if you like, but this is the basics of the sword. You can see on some of the designs that we had over here. Oh, that was the wrench. Um, I think the user here kind of put raised patterns over here, just a line like that. Put a cut in this area, a cut in that area, but we'll skip those parts and just leave it just as it is right here. We can even check to see if they have it raised at that area. Yeah, you can see that it's, oops. Anytime that happens, just hit the home button and then scroll in here. We want to determine if this was raised or cut. And it looks like it's cut into the surface. Do I want to try that? I guess I could show you one last thing here, and that would be a cut down the middle. And I'll let you decide whether you want to do these other design cuts as well. Before we get too far along, though, what we should do is probably save this. So go to File, Save As. I'm going to save it in the Documents folder here. I think we have another one in this area. We called it Dummy Wrench with our initials. This one we call Dummy Sword. All right, see if I can put one more thing in here. So if I right click on this and go like this, um, this will be optional, of course. You don't have to do this step. Just once you go ahead and show your instructor this design, you can pick up the 3D printed sword. I can rotate this around like that using the view cue. And I guess I can just freehand this. So we'll use a rectangle. Um, I don't know if a center rectangle will work. Probably just a 2-point rectangle. It'll be more like freehand unless we really get careful with this. So we could just kind of estimate it right there, and then go all the way down to the end, but not quite all the way, but just like right about there. And I'm just eyeballing this. I should be more precise with my work, but that's for another video. What we'll do here is just do a small cut into the surface and call this one complete. You could do it on the other side. We certainly don't want this. I do want to show you something that if you went okay here, you have a weird looking sword. Um, but what you can do is hit Control Z and that will undo it. So Control Z is your friend when it comes to Autodesk Inventor. 3D model, extrude, but we want to do a cut instead, and probably only just like 0.2 millimeters, not very deep at all, just to give it a little bit of some style to it. All right, I'll let you decide whether you want to put some more cuts in there. You're welcome to do that. And then once you have this, then make sure that you show this to one of the staff members using the home button right there, and then go ahead and pick up your 3D printed object. I will see you in the next video.